is a little Southern Gothic tale for y'all. It's called Go Your Own Way. It's the middle of the night when I get a text from Billy. That's summer in North Carolina for ya. Too hot to sleep, even for the cat. Turn on UNC's radio station, Billy's text reads, and so I do. I find the stream online, pushing away the poem I'm working on. The signal buffers and comes into focus, the taillights fading from a Joy Division song just before the DJ cuts in. A special request, she announces, from Billy to Sarah. My heart flutters as the first notes play. I know the song instantly, the sparse drum, the wonky, whining synthesizer, then Bruce's voice, unmistakable. Hey little girl, is your daddy home? Did he go away and leave you all alone? I'm on fire, born in the USA, 1985. It's so hot, my cotton sleep shirt sticks to my skin. An hour and a half to the east, in Raleigh, Billy can't sleep either. I imagine him sitting shirtless in the dark, playing his marimba, drinking a warm beer, and thinking of me. It's not unheard of for one of us to race down I-40 at all hours of the night to see each other, but not tonight. Tonight, it's enough to transmit Bruce across the distance, to speak in song, as we often do, about what's happening between us, our unnameable and precarious desire. Where or when I met Billy, I couldn't tell you, but we became inseparable one summer in 2004. It was June, just after the college kids left for home and the smell of trash and Pabst Blue Ribbon and gardenias stained the sidewalks until the rain returned to North Carolina come September. I was 21, ready to graduate and scouting graduate programs. Billy was living in Raleigh after recently dropping out of the music program at UNC Greensboro, and he needed a place to crash a few Sundays when he had Monday morning court dates to fight a DUI charge. Billy and I were only socially familiar with each other, acquaintances really. So when he called me up, asking for a place to stay, saying he won't be a bother, and that one of our mutual friends gave him my phone number, I was so caught off guard that I couldn't say no. After we hung up, I scanned my barren apartment, and it sunk in that there was no place for Billy to go. We'd have to share a bed. Billy arrives a few days later, clouded in a Marlboro Light aura, a suit hanging on a hook in his car, which he doesn't bring in. He's later than when he said he'd arrive, but I'm not doing anything. Sorry I don't have more furniture, I offer, gesturing toward the bed. Just don't make me sleep in my car, he quips. He sounds like a cowboy. His speech slow and measured, his accent thick. He touches his chin when he talks and always seems to be laughing at a joke spinning on repeat in his brain. If you get out of hand, you will be, I say, meaning it. We're strangers, after all. I work part-time as a receptionist for a hair salon that's closed on Mondays, so I don't mind when Billy and I hit it off like a house on fire and stay awake all night talking, singing one-hit wonders like Life in a Northern Town and laughing until gut ache. We quote entire scenes from the film American Beauty, and I struggle for breath when Billy recites verbatim the line from Kevin Spacey. Your mother seems to prefer that I go through life like a fucking prisoner while she keeps my dick in a mason jar under the sink. He tells me about his military upbringing and living all over before relocating to a tiny beach town outside Jacksonville, North Carolina in 3rd grade. He laments his DUI and the trouble it's caused, but says he escaped in the end because the cop somehow missed the small bag of cocaine burrowed in his pocket. We laugh and scream and swat and crash into each other, laying side by side in the darkness. But nothing happens. I wake in the morning to Billy trekking through the screen door, wearing corduroy pants in the dead of summer, and asking me if I have an iron to de-wrinkle his designated court shirt. Can you tie a tie, he wonders, standing in my crooked mirror. I never learned how, I say, looking down, my cheeks reddening. It's not like me to be shy, but after last night, when it felt like we'd known each other for all our lives, I don't know what to do. And it's early, the sun barely bleeding through the blinds. Must be around 6:30 or 7. We've scarcely slept 3 hours. I listen to Billy brush his teeth and spit, and when he emerges from the bathroom, he says, "What are you doing this afternoon?" "Nothing," I say. "I'm off Mondays." "Perfect. I'll call you when I leave the courthouse," he says before turning back. "Wish me luck, Dixie." "Good luck," I call, falling back to bed. One night together, and already he's giving me nicknames. Billy stays Monday and Tuesday night too, and by Wednesday, I'm walking down to the hardware store to have a key made for him. I work the rest of the week, leaving Billy in bed most mornings, spooled in my sheets. Afternoon, he calls me out the salon while ambling down to the university's music building, where he'll play piano for a few hours in the empty practice rooms. "I miss you, Dixie," he breathes into the phone. "How's Delta's hair looking?" Sometimes, after work, I meet with Billy at the music building, listen to him riff a little, sometimes joining in, belting made-up opera songs to his accompaniment. We get into a habit of walking around at night, taking my digital camera and heading into town. Downtown Greensboro is a ghost town during the weekdays, and we stage elaborate photo shoots beneath overpasses, on and under bridges, lying on train tracks, the city skyline shimmering just beyond. We take shots under streetlights, at the tops of parking garages, in dimmed alleyways between restaurants where the garbage scraps have turned the air foul. There's no place we won't go. "This is your album cover," I tell Billy, showing him the portrait I've just taken on the roof of a random apartment building. In it, Billy faces the camera, his body surrounded by nighttime, his blue shirt unbuttoned into a V of blonde hair, the only light in the frame coming from a car's headlights, illuminating Billy from behind. "That's my cover, all right," Billy agrees, and we continue our photographic vision quest, alternating turns of whiskey from his flask. Like an art director, Billy has ideas. We pass the restaurant kitchen at closing time, its doors swung open to reveal the workers wiping down steel appliances while Motown filters into the alley, and Billy curates shots of me nestled against a butcher and his blood-spattered apron. Wandering home, Billy snaps me pawing a theater marquee announcing its latest showing of Lovers and Executioners. But mostly, Billy prefers incorporating architecture, me in the yellowed light of a doorway, in the din of an industrial stairwell, or as a prism of reflection in the mirrored banking buildings downtown. One night, we even get a photo with a parking cone over my head. During these sojourns, whenever Billy touches me, directing me this way, turning my chin that way, I want to scream. Throughout stairwells and parking garages, Billy pins me to walls with his hip and breathes into my hair. "Oh, Dixie," he says, "what you do to me." "Come on," I say, mock exasperated, slapping him lightly across the face, fighting my way out from under him. I pretend not to care. I pretend that I don't want Billy to kiss me, when really, I know that he won't kiss me. Billy is gay. I have no idea Billy is gay when I first meet him, because Billy is not in any way like my other gay friends. He's not like anyone I've ever met. He's perpetually donning a maroon knitted cap, even in Carolina swelter, hiding his chin-length blonde hair. With his looks, he could be a shirtless cologne ad, but dresses like a rough and tumble HVAC specialist. He towers above me in height and has the stocky build of a lumberjack. His thighs could easily save me from a burning building. And he's hairy, and he's dirty. No, Billy is not very gay at all. We press on into countless blurred nights, wandering the Greensboro landscape, the digital camera dangling from our wrists. Unquestionably, I'm the better photographer. I understand light, the concept of composition, how to play up contrast. I capture the half of Billy's face as he lies on the ground, the other half of the picture all bright blades of wet grass. Each time I upload these photographs to my computer, I see myself as Billy sees me, exotic, glamorous, a subject to work with, to play with, in the way that he plays the marimba or the piano. I am his artwork, an experiment. He calls me Dixie like a title, a distraction to defray from the truth of my name. To call me Sarah would be too real, and already we've carved a new realm, an alternate world in photographs and in my tiny apartment, where Billy pulls my records from their sleeves and we lay stoned on the carpet in the unbearable heat, unable to sleep, holding hands and screaming David Bowie lyrics.
Yeah.
Billy's DUI case is postponed and postponed again, and he returns to Greensboro weeks at a time to stay with me. All summer he remains jobless, living off the last of his financial aid. But he's utilitarian and doesn't require much. To smoke pot, we buy a $7 corncob pipe from the general store up the road. We drink 40s of High Life on my porch at night, and when I'm at work, Billy gets free meals from the campus Hare Krishnas. His parents live a world away on the coast, but in between stints at my apartment, Billy resides in Raleigh with his older, on-again, off-again boyfriend, Brad. Billy says Brad is jealous of me and doesn't want to meet me, and that makes me secretly happy. Billy says things like, Brad's inconsequential, and I can't help but wonder if he's saying the same things about me to Brad. But I go visit Billy in Raleigh too, mostly while Brad's at work during the day. I roam Brad's apartment, petting his cat, taking note of his plants that need water. What does Billy do here? I spy their bed and it makes me shudder. I begin to wonder if I'm falling in love with Billy. I've loved boys, mostly wandering fools who I've eventually tired of, but the connection I feel with Billy, I've never felt with anyone. And he feels it too. One night I touch Billy just to get his attention, and he shocks me, literally. Only static electricity, but the symbolism isn't lost on us. How is it we've just now become friends? Billy asks me, and I shrug. He insists on holding my hand when we walk down the street. In bars, he glares down men who turn to look or even attempt to talk to me. When I'm with him, I hardly ever think of Drew, the turbulent waiter I've been seeing on and off for the past few years. When I come home from work one night, Billy attacks me immediately. I miss you, Dixie, he says, squeezing me. He's drunk on Southern Comfort. I can hear the music bleeding from the porch. That night, we expand on the digital camera's functions and foray into videoing. In one segment, Billy teases the camera, undressing in time to Martha and the Vandellas' Don't Mess with Bill. In another, he drunkenly peruses the web while wailing Lou Reed's Satellite of Love. But in one clip, Billy is poised shirtless between my legs. I'm lying on the carpet, filming Billy from below. He leans in close to me, his forehead knocking the camera before he declares, "Loving you isn't the right thing to do." The first line from the Fleetwood Mac anthem, Go Your Own Way. I'm giggling in the background as Billy crisscrosses my legs again and again like a pair of scissors before collapsing into laughter himself. It's evident, watching these videos now, that sex between us was looming and inescapable. After the videoing, Billy falls quiet. Dixie, he says, sitting down at the edge of my bed. My heart's going crazy. He has that tone in his voice. That tone guys get? Yeah, I reply. You wouldn't show me your breasts, would you? Perhaps he's emboldened by the booze, or perhaps this is the natural crux of what's been happening between us. But either way, I recognize my novelty in the situation and slip off my shirt. Billy stares, and then I realize he needs some coaching. So I take his hands and press them into me. We're laughing, of course, but it's also serious. You know, I always thought they'd feel like this, he says. And what do they feel like? I want to know. Soft, he says, taking my nipple in his mouth. Soft. I let the word marinate in my brain before we start kissing, rolling around on the bed that we've shared for so many other uneventful nights. The word is terrifying, implicating vulnerability. I want to be the hard and steely Dixie, not tender Sarah. And yet our experiment, and I understand that it is an experiment, is tender, not calculating or particularly wild, but investigative. Billy reaches between my legs and bristles, chuckling into my neck. I love this, he muses, and he really sounds like this. I love this, he muses. It's so warm. Warm. Another word I let linger, feeling simultaneously flattered and mortified. I feel like a teenager whose parents are about to arrive home from the movie early to find me losing my virginity on the couch with the scrawny next door neighbor. And so quickly I learn that a woman having sex with a gay man is like having sex for the first time. It's also like eating Domino's pizza. Not altogether unpleasant, but not authentic either. That went over well. After Billy's lesson in my anatomy, I go down on him, the whole time thinking, is this better than a man? Am I like a man? Can the experiences ever be compared? I crawl on top of Billy and he rolls a condom on. But the fear that's overtaken me about being inadequate to the muscular, friction-laced sex of man on man won't shake. I'm no longer aroused, if I ever was, but it's too late. Billy is inside of me. We're having sex. I'm having sex with a gay man. I don't come, but the experience isn't without merit. We pull apart, breathless and exasperated and embarrassed, and begin cackling. That was really something, Dixie. Billy tells me, you're a hell of a gal. He goes, I need a sip. Billy and I have sex 3 times total. The first in my bedroom, and the second in Wilmington, North Carolina. We've driven my Honda to the beach where we rent a room at the cozy Motel 6. We spend all day on the shore, and in the evening, salt-washed and dirty, we roam downtown Wilmington, eating fried things and taking pictures. We meander down to the harbor where someone has stenciled graffiti of Nico from the Velvet Underground everywhere. Billy takes pictures of me lying on the docks, looking off towards the water. Back in the hotel room, I'm feeling crazy. Come on, I prod him. Isn't this what you wanted? I strip from my bathing suit and entice him to bed. We have rough sex on the comforter, and I wonder if Billy now thinks of me as a man, hardened and overt and demanding. But sex in the second round is just as awkward. To forget it, I make Billy drive me to Taco Bell at midnight. We gorge ourselves into a jumpsuit splendor and pass out. The third time Billy and I have sex is on a mattress on the floor of a friend's house in Raleigh. We go out to a bar where we chat up a guy who's been bitten by a brown recluse spider, which he keeps calling brown recluse, which cracks us up each time. Country living, y'all, country living. At the house, Billy and I get half into it before calling it off. This is too weird, I tell him, and he agrees. What are we even doing? I don't know, Billy laughs. I mean, I like it, but it's weird. You're gay, I tell him. That's true, Billy nods. I'm gay, but not with you. That's not what a woman wants to hear. After our sexcapades, things don't get weird. They don't get awkward. Nothing changes between Billy and me. He holds my hand as we walk to the bar near my house, but we don't kiss and we don't fuck. Friends ask what's going on between us, and we look at each other and smile. Nothing, we both say. Even my mother mistakes Billy for my boyfriend, and neither of us corrects her. When he leaves the room, she nods approvingly. He's hot, she mouths, and I laugh. I wonder if two people could be in love with each other and just not have sex. Maybe, Billy says one night, we should just get married. What are you talking about, I ask. I'm serious, he says. We get married and get it annulled. Yeah, I say. Why not? Fall is closing in, and already I've amassed thousands of photographs of Billy and me. On Labor Day weekend, I have friends over to my house, and we drink Budweiser and set things on fire in the yard. There's a boy there, a poet like me, and he's cute. Billy sees us talking and shakes his head no. He pulls me aside in the house. I don't like that guy, he says. He's not for you. So I suppose I'll just marry a gay man then, right? You can keep my pussy in a mason jar under the sink. He gets my point. I love it when you're angry, he growls, pulling me into him. I bite his chest and he screams. But Billy's serious about our marriage scheme. We actually do consult a lawyer who looks at us in awe as we explain that we want to get married because we recognize our unique relationship, but that we'd like to get it annulled not too long after. Annulled, the lawyer asks. You see, he's gay, I explain. I'm gay, Billy says. The lawyer is puzzled, sizing Billy up. I never would have guessed that about you, he mutters before telling us it's the stupidest idea he's ever heard. Don't do it, is his final advice. And Billy and I walk away, agreeing that he's probably right. The following June, Billy's DUI case is finally settled. He enrolls in court-mandated alcohol classes and stays with me for a week while completing the program. While he's in class, I begin boxing all my things, preparing for my impending move to Boston for graduate school to study creative writing. Billy gets a job working with the Raleigh Barnes & Noble, and on his days off, he motors back and forth down I-40 between me and Brad, who takes Billy back every time he returns from another extended stay with me, even though he's convinced we're having an affair. But you never told Brad about, those few times, I ask Billy. What do you think, he says. He'd kick me out for good, and then I'd really be all yours, Dixie. But Billy talks about coming to Boston with me. North Carolina has bored him. Brad has bored him. The prospect of moving away with him both excites and unnerves me, mostly because Billy is a gypsy. He can't commit to anything, a location, a school, a sexuality. I worry Billy will hate it in Boston and flee on a random Tuesday, leaving me pouring through Craigslist ads for a last-minute roommate. He tags along on my apartment scouting trip to Boston that July. He wants to see how he likes the city, if he thinks it's a good match for him. We leave early, Billy steering my Honda up I-95. I love road trips, and I'm high on the possibilities that the open road cultivates. but the drive with Billy is nightmarish. Though music has been one of the things that drew us together, Billy insists we travel in silence. When I reach for the radio, he slaps my hand. My driving, my rules, he says. My car, my rules, I say, turning the radio on. But Billy complains so much that we turn the radio off in the end. I've never seen the side of him. I want to listen to music and I want to ask questions. I want to know how he could be drawn to me if he's attracted to men. But I say nothing. We sit in muteness for hours before reaching our midpoint stop, his grandparents' house in Pennsylvania along the Delaware River. That night, after a pizza dinner with Billy's aunts and uncles, we retire to his grandparents' waterbed. The bedside tables are covered with ceramic unicorns and pictures of Billy and his cousins as children. He looks so earnest in one of the photos, blowing out candles on a birthday cake. He couldn't be more than 8 years old. I can't explain why the photo saddens me. Maybe because we're far from home, maybe because I'm moving away to an unknown city and with a stranger, because Billy is still unknown to me, someone I can't pin down or begin to explain. Who and what is Billy anyway? Perhaps I want it to be true that sexuality is either one way or the other, gay or straight, to make it easier for everyone, and everyone meaning me. Why are you so quiet, Dixie? Let's christen this thing, Billy says, rubbing against me. No, I say, and shove him off hard. Then, like a fool, I understand. I want Billy to be something he's not. In an ideal world, we'd be moving to a new city as a couple, and not as best friends whose potential is crippled by sexuality, which is forgiving and fluid and confusing. But I want Billy to be straight. We leave Billy's grandparents' house the next afternoon, taking the Taconic Parkway through New York, stopping at the overlooks to photograph us against the route's famed valleys, right in time for sunset. In Boston, we check into a BU dorm that's converted to a hostel each summer. Days, we roam neighborhoods, popping into internet cafes to scour Craigslist for housing. We tour my graduate school, the Boston Common, and the Charles River, taking pictures of everything. I think I could live here, Billy finally decides as we cross the Longfellow Bridge, and his boss at Barnes & Noble has confirmed he'll transfer Billy's job to Boston. On our final day in the city, we make a deposit on the house in Jamaica Plain. We book a U-Haul. We're moving to Boston. Billy quickly settles into Boston life. Summer in a new city does something to you, to be sure, but that Boston summer does quite different things to each of us. I become resolute, determined to find a new job, to have new poems completed for my graduate school workshops, determined to be serious about making things work. I'm focused. Billy is ecstatic, untamable, high on constant adrenaline. He removes his red knitted cap, replacing it with a red bandana, which he ties around his forehead. All his shirts he unbuttons halfway down his chest, and because he sweats like a beast, his armpits are relentlessly wet. You look like an aerobics instructor, I tell him. But the truth is that he looks really good. When he's not working, Billy explores the city nonstop. He meets gay men in bars and chats with them on the internet, bringing them home in a constant deodorantless stream. Though I've started dating myself, a red-headed bartender named Paul, pangs of jealousy stab at me. A few weeks into our new life, I find Billy having sex on the back porch. It's 3 a.m. I'm stumbling in the darkness to the bathroom, and I hear Billy giggling through the screen windows. I hear someone else too, and flip on the kitchen light. "Hey," Billy calls, "don't come out here." But of course I go out there. There's Billy and another guy, naked, entwined on some blankets, which Billy has repurposed for a makeshift bed. They peer up at me, grinning, and I feel myself redden with embarrassment. "Sick," I say. "You sicken me." I storm away into my room, Billy and his friends' laughter burning into my ears. I've reconciled that Billy and I can never be together, but I hadn't anticipated that the midnight sprees across the city, the photographic sessions spent searching for the right setting, the perfect lighting, might ever dissipate. We are fractured and far from North Carolina. Whatever we had, whatever we were, is over. Billy insists that everyone remove his or her shoes before entering our apartment, including us. Living with Billy, it turns out, is utterly different from the way things were when he incessantly crashed at my place in North Carolina. When I forgetfully wear my shoes inside, Billy scolds me. He tells me I'm tracking in dirt, and what's worse, germs. "Since when do you care about germs?" I ask. "Since forever," he fires back. I don't take my shoes off because no one's ever implemented that stupid rule with me before, I tell him. "So, sorry." "Well, I grew up that way," Billy says, "so I guess you'll just have to adjust to it." "And why can't you adjust to my way?" I wonder. "Because my way is better," he insists. "You're acting like a dictator," I tell him. "Why?" he says. "Because I won't have classic puzzle piece sex with you?" I feel my mouth fall open. "You're an asshole," I shriek. When Paul arrives later that night, we fuck on Billy's futon in the living room. Billy's in his bedroom playing his marimba, oblivious. Afterward, I wrap myself in a towel and saunter past his doorway. "What are you grinning about?" he asks. "We just had sex," I tell him, standing at the end of his bed. But he just laughs. "On your futon," I add, and Billy's face goes white. How's that for germs? Come December, Billy's gone. He heads to Somerville for a short time before holing up at the Cambridge Zen Center. I knew all along this would happen, that Billy would grow restless. A lease is like a label, too definitive, too permanent for Billy, who, like a magician, must never reveal his tricks, who always needs an evacuation plan and a flourishing finale. It's my own resentment towards Billy that surprises me, and we both agree that we can't live together. Billy's insistence on shoelessness and silence while driving is starkly unlike his freewheeling, whatever-goes attitude about everything else, including sex, the only thing I ever wanted him to be strict about. We don't speak or see each other for a few years, and when we patch things up in 2009, it's like yesterday we met. It's like nothing ever happened. He catches me up on the time lost and his infinite wanderings. Throughout the nearly 8 years we're together in Boston, Billy has never stayed put. He relocates and relocates again. He gets and quits more jobs than I can keep track of. One day he labors in a tea distribution warehouse, the next he's a nanny for a wealthy Cambridge family. He plots a move to Alaska, of all places, and one summer he packs his things into his Subaru Outback, only to turn around once he hits Michigan. He quits another job and backpacks through India. When he returns to Boston, he insists on eating with his fingers, the Indian way. He drives to North Carolina for weeks at a time, then returns to Boston again. We convene in bars after each journey, and he reveals to me his latest ploy, a move to San Francisco, to Hawaii, to India, plans to enroll in school, to not enroll in school, to give Alaska a second shot. None of it ever happens. He holds my hand when we walk down the street. I've learned not to ask questions. I have thousands of photographs taken the summer we were golden. You remember those days, Dixie? Billy often asks me now. I never know if he's staying or going when he'll call me from Carolina or Delhi or randomly show up in my office. People ask me if he's my boyfriend, and I attempt to explain that he's gay, but just not with me. Those explanations always fail. There are no explanations. We're just like that, I say. Yeah, Billy echoes. We're just like that.